Thank you for joining us, sir. We will start the session now. Um, First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone and thank everyone for joining us. Um, Indian Road Safety Campaign is a part of Solve Foundation. It's working towards the mission of making Indian roads safer, focusing on reducing the number of deaths caused by road crashes. To achieve this, Indian Road Safety is working with several stakeholders like 1,500 plus institutions and has 25,000 plus volunteers across 26 states. We are working in various domains such as awareness, technical innovation, law, policy, medical, etc. We are also working in close association with the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, state traffic policies, United Nations, World Health Organization, etc. Our main aim is to change the scenario of road safety in India and achieve the Vision Zero. As you know, we are all affected by the pandemic. We did not want our efforts to, whatever traction we have gained with respect to road safety to be stalled now. So keeping this in mind, Indian Road Safety Campaign started the Journey to Safety webinar series. This is an effort to bring all stakeholders of road safety on one platform during this pandemic. We have successfully completed uh, 10 webinars, um, and the webinars have covered various issues of road safety. And we have had experts from universities, healthcare, ministries, government, corporate institutions, and we have been having participants from different domains as well. Um, we have had several prominent speakers like Dr. Eva Molnar, Rashmi Urdvashi, Abhay Damle, and today we are going to welcome Mr. Krishna Prasad sir to cover the topic National Road Safety Strategy for 2030. Our host for the session is Ivy Rao. He is the Board of Advisory, as well as Krishna Prasad sir is also the Board of Advisory for IRSC. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. For all the participants, please enter your questions for sir in the chat. We will take those questions and we will discuss it at the end. Thank you so much. Sir, you can take over from here.
Mr. Ivy Rao. Yeah, good afternoon, Dr. Krishna Prasad, Dipanshu and IRSC team and all the participants. I'm really very happy to host this webinar, the 11th in the weekly series being organized by IRSC about road safety strategy. This particular webinar is about National Road Safety Strategy of reducing the crashes by 50% by 2030. I have been following the series of webinars in last 8 weeks with eminent personalities participating to highlight the issues concerning road safety and suggest various remedies for making our roads safer for the users. As I had mentioned in one of the previous episodes, the first enactment of Indian Motor Vehicle Act was in 1914 during British Raj, which was subsequently replaced by the Motor Vehicle Act in 1939. With first set of technical requirements for automobiles mandated in 88 and decision to follow EC standards, we have come a long way with implementation of all crash norms for safety implemented in 2019 and Euro 6 equivalent emission norms which were implemented in April 2020. Our new vehicles being manufactured now are almost at par with Europe. In case of two-wheelers, many of the standards, our regulations are more stringent than what are there in Europe. Rightly so, because we have a big population of two-wheelers, which is about 75% of the total fleet. And India is one of the two largest two-wheeler manufacturing nations in the world. Last year, the Motor Vehicle Act has been modified with a lot of improvements and also increasing the penalty for not following any of the traffic rules. Many of the busy roads in major cities are being equipped with remote cameras for identifying the vehicles, not following the signals at road crossings and not stopping as per motor vehicle rules, which would automatically issue the challan through WhatsApp. There is no evaluation of accidents taking place every day to understand actual reasons for the accident. The only records what we have are the police complaints, and the basic focus for these complaints is to basically decide fixing the responsibility for the accidents. 2018 motor vehicle MOT's data about road accidents indicates increasing trend in number of accident fatalities, and the maximum fatalities we have in UP, and the maximum accidents take place in Tamil Nadu. The big concern is also about 72% of fatalities what we have every year is from people in the mid-age group who are in most productive phase, which dents our growth. The accidents involve two-wheelers in about 35% cases, and 24% have four-wheelers. And also fatality shows similar trends with respect to two-wheeler and four-wheelers. And 75% of the drivers involved in these accidents are all having valid driving licenses. Coming forward with the driving schools to actually educate the people in good driving habits. Also brings out the point that it is not just sufficient to equip the vehicles with a lot of features for driver assistance. What is more important is to educate the users about these features and their usage. And another question which I feel is very pertinent is why the road users and the vehicle users should follow traffic rules. In spite of being repetitive, I just want to mention this again. If you look at the way two-wheeler users use a helmet, in recent survey showed that 30% of drivers only use helmets and only 10% in case of pillion drivers. And in case of accidents also, the 29% were found not using the helmets. The question is, why should a two-wheeler user wear an helmet improperly? Many of them still think they are doing this to follow the rules. They do not feel they are doing this for their safety. The day the users fully realize whatever traffic rules are there, the adherence to these rules is in their benefit, for their safety, then we may not have all these problems what we face with the users. Similar is the case with the passengers wearing seat belts in passenger vehicles. Based on some survey conducted recently, only 28% of the drivers use seat belts. Male about 32% and female drivers 19%. And only 4% rear seat occupants use seat belts. In this also, many of them don't use when doing a small trip to nearby locations, which also means that if there is not going to be a police or some check, they all feel that it's not necessary to use seat belts. I mean, that is the issue. In case of fatalities, also 38% drivers and 62% of passengers were not using seat belts. Implementing road safety in India needs a change in our thinking. We are discussing for a long time the 5 pillars for road safety: the building road safety management capacity, improving the safety of road infrastructure and better roads, further developing the vehicles to be more safer, and also enhancing the behavior of road users. And last but not the least is the improving the post-crash response. Over last decade, we had considerably improved our road infrastructure. The automobiles almost now at par with Europe, and awareness amongst the road users also has improved. And we are also working to improve the post-accident emergency treatment services. But we all know that there's a lot more to be done. Though the new Motor Vehicle Act amended last year has brought a lot of much needed changes, including the severe penalty for breaking the rules. But unfortunately, we still do not see visible change in road vehicle user behavior. I personally feel the behavioral change in road vehicle users is most important for safety on the roads. The COVID lockdown and related restrictions have given some hope about we Indians following and adhering to the various government guidelines. Uh, I had gone through some of the responses from participants on LinkedIn in about the previous webinars. Many have expressed similar views, saying how long we will discuss these without any visible change in number of accidents and fatalities. All previous webinars also concluded that no single agency can bring in this change. All stakeholders have to do their bit to bring the change. We all road users have to do our bit. Last week, we had leaders from industry to understand the role of corporates and their contribution in promoting the road safety. Today's webinar, as you all know, we have one of the eminent personalities who had played an active role in improving the road safety in Telangana. This would give us a perspective how states can actually transfer the policies into realities on the road. I am very happy to host Dr. T. Krishna Prasad for today's webinar on road safety strategy, halving the crashes by 2030. Dr. T. Krishna Prasad, IPS, is an engineer, lawyer, and a management graduate from IIM Ahmedabad. He also did his PhD in sustainable urban mobility from Osmania University. He retired as DGP from Telangana government. He was chairman Road Safety Authority in Hyderabad. He was also chief mentor for KP Foundation and authored some books on social issues. Dr. Krishna Prasad, we are very eager to understand how you worked in Telangana in terms of policy to improve the road safety, and over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ivy Rao Garu. Ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me thank Indian Road Safety Campaign for this wonderful opportunity for all of us to participate and discuss on the very, very important matter that is challenging our country, that is road crashes and the loss that the nation is going through because of the road crashes. Swati, I see some concern on your face. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're good.
Madam, Mr. Krishna Prasad's picture is not coming on the video.
The video is on. I'm able to see it. If anybody has any issues.
Yeah, I can see my own picture in the pixel. So,
Go ahead.
ladies and gentlemen, what we were talking about is basically what is the effect, the net effect or the loss that the nation is going through because of the road crashes in our country. Probably you're all aware by now that India is losing about 150,000 human lives every year in road crashes. Kindly note that I'm not using the word accident. I'm using the word crash instead of accident. Because the moment we say accident, we think it is beyond our hands or beyond our control. But actually, road crashes are manageable. Road crashes can be reduced, can be controlled by human behavior. So I will not use the word accident. I will use the word crash. Every year, ladies and gentlemen, India is losing 150,000 precious human lives, and mostly in the age group of 15 to 45 years. We all are proud of demographic dividends. Unfortunately, here we are losing that. So it is a demographic disaster as far as road crash is concerned. So we are losing 150,000 human lives. We are again having 450,000 persons being permanently disabled because of injuries. So 150,000 plus 450,000, 600,000 families, budding families, aspiring families in India are crushed because of the road crashes. Now, if you look at the demographic details of these people, typically they are from lower income and middle income, means they have a lot to achieve. They want to achieve a lot. They want to give great future to their children. They have a lot of aspirations. They're working very, very hard to give a fantastic future for their children. Unfortunately, a road crash takes away all that from their children. So it's a very, very bad scenario. 600,000 families. So that's what is Indian scenario we are talking about. So while we were talking on this subject, unfortunately, we are now in the middle of the pandemic. As on today, in the pandemic, globally, we have seen 10,097,247 cases reported under the pandemic and 501,584 deaths. Whereas in India, we have seen 2,171,191 cases during the same period and 16,112 deaths. So it's very unfortunate that we are in a scenario, we are in a situation where large number of thousands of people, more than 5 lakh people have already died globally. So in that context, I'm sure you're all joining me to be with the families of those people who lost their dear ones. I pay respects to each and every departed soul. And my heart is with each and every family that who has lost their dear ones. Coming back to the road safety, if you look at the stats globally, we are losing about 1.35 millions every year. And within the age group of 5 to 29 years, road crashes is the first leading cause for death. Between the age group of 5 to 29 years, again, as I was telling you, this is the age group which is an aspiring age group, which is growing to become the leading economic activists, the leading persons who are going to contribute to the economic activity of the country. So for within this age group, the most causative factor of death is road crash. And again, among all the different causes of deaths, road crash globally today is the 8th, it figures as 8th rank. So this is the gravity that we are talking about as far as the road crash is concerned. And the deaths in the low income countries happen to be 3 times higher than the death rates in the high income countries. This is one very, very important and grave statistic. Then again, more than half of the deaths are pertaining to the vulnerable road users. And who are these vulnerable road users? The pedestrians, the cyclists, and the motorcyclists. And if you typically look at the VRUs, vulnerable road users, and if you look at the economic status or where do they come from, again, as I told you, they are the future citizens of the country. They are the aspiring citizens of the country. They are willing to participate in the economic activity and the national building of the country. So these people suddenly, in lakhs of people, are suddenly lost from the map of India. So that again makes this situation very, very grim, and this situation very, very important to all of us. If you look at the road accidents in India, as I told you, 22,656 pedestrians are dying, 55,336 two-wheelers are dying. This is the number. So if you add it up, it comes to nearly 50% of the total people who are dying in the road crashes. And if you look at the causative factors, I call them 3 majors and 3 minors. From the studies we have conducted the data. There are 3 major reasons for the road crashes in India. Among the 3 majors, the first one is over speeding. When I read out these 3 major causative factors, you will again correlate. If you can correlate with the age group I was talking about, then it makes a lot of sense. Overspeeding is the most or the biggest killer in the road crashes. The second one is overloading. And the third one is drunken driving. Now, if you put overspeeding and drunken driving together, and if you try to correlate or put a layer over the age group, now it makes sense that who is overspeeding, who is indulging in driving after drinking. It is a young age group. It is very, very clear to see. So therefore, what we need to do is address that particular age group, address these 2 causative factors. One is the overspeeding and second is the drunken driving. So these are the 3 major causative factors. What I talk about is overspeeding, overloading, and drunken driving. What is overloading? Overloading can be technically loading passengers in a goods vehicle or loading goods in a passenger vehicle. Both are technically called overloading, and loading more goods in a goods vehicle and loading more people in the passenger vehicle. So these are the 3 major causative factors. Now let us look at the 3 minor causative factors. The 3 minor causative factors are the distracted driving, for example, talking on mobile phone while driving, etc. And the second one is not wearing safety gadgets like helmets, seat belts. And the third is wrong side driving. Probably when you're on the national highways or expressways, sometimes you suddenly feel some vehicles are coming from the wrong side. So these are the 3 major and 3 minor causative factors that we normally see across the country. Now, if we look at the trends, the accidents, fatalities, and the severity trends that is been observed, and if you take 1997 as the base, that is, if you take the 1997 year as a base of 100, what we notice is that the accidents have gone up by 1.25 times, but the deaths have doubled. This is very, very serious. So we need to understand this as to why. While the accidents have gone up by 1.25 times, how come the deaths have doubled? It become 200% of what it was in 1997. So that basically makes the severity rate. Severity rate is number of deaths per 100 accident. This is the most important statistic that I use normally in my discussions. So that is making the severity rate increase. So when we started in 2014, India as a country had a severity rate of 35.4. Telangana as a state, sorry, India as a country had a severity rate of only 29.2. Whereas Telangana as state had 35.4. So we worked hard. I will let you know how we worked very hard to reverse the severity rate. We brought the severity rate in Telangana to below 30. But unfortunately, the severity rate in India went beyond 33 during the same period. So the severity rate is very, very important. That is for every 100 accidents. How do we put down? How do we put down and compress and reduce the total number of deaths for the same 100 accidents? Yes, it is also important to reduce the number of accidents. But however, accidents do take place or crashes do take place. So therefore, the policy maker and the enforcer has to think as to how do I reduce the number of deaths for every 100 accidents. This is a very, very important statistics to my mind. Then if you look at the correlation between the national highway, state highway, and the major district roads, this is a very, very important aspect. I have been arguing on this point. Ladies and gentlemen, the total length of the national highway in our country is only 2% of the total road length in our country. And the total state highways are only 3%. So this 2% of the national highway account for 30% of the road accidents and 36% of the fatalities in our country. I am repeating, 2% of the national highways contribute 30% of the road crashes and 36% of the fatalities. And the state highways, the 3% state highways contribute to 25% of the road crashes and 27% of the fatalities. So if you combine these two, what it basically means is 5% of the highways, 5% of the national plus state highways contribute to 51% of the total road crashes and 63% of total fatalities. This is very, very important slide. Just 5% of the national plus state highways are responsible for 55% of the total road crashes. Just 5% of the total length of the roads, that is the national highway and state highway, are responsible for total 63% of the fatalities in the road crashes in the country. So therefore, it makes a lot of sense to see as to what is happening on the national highways and the state highways. Is there any mechanism or apparatus for road safety or not? This is a very, very important aspect. So I want you to kindly remember this for the rest of the presentation, that there is a big problem on the highways. Highways are taking away a lot of lives. So I'm not saying you burn down your house to get rid of the rats. No. What I'm saying is find out the causes and fix up the causes so that we reduce the total number of crashes and we reduce the total number of deaths on the highways. Because after all, as we have just seen, 63% of the total deaths happen on the highways. So that is one thing I would like you to remember. When it comes to the road accidents in Telangana, again, the story is not different. Pedestrians and two-wheelers fatalities are very high. The story is the same. Again, the age group point of view, it is less than 60 years or less than 45 years where large number of youth is dying. Bread earners are dying. Aspirant families are dying. Families which are looking for great bright future for children, they are getting crushed. The story is the same in every state in the entire country. Causative factors again are the same: over speeding, driving on the wrong side, overtaking, overloading, and drunken driving. Now, this is an important slide where road accidents in Telangana, when you see looking at the trend, the accidents, the fatalities, and the severity rate. So we will find that the accidents are by and large ranging between 21,000 and maxing at 23,000. Whereas the deaths are between 6,600 to 7,200. So there is a range of 600 over a base of 6,600. That is a variation that is taking place as far as the deaths is concerned. But I hope there is a blue bar chart. Yes, this one. So if you look at the purple line, which is going down, that is the severity rate, 33.5 to 31.6 to 29.3. I wish I would have put another layer of the Indian severity rate. Indian severity rate, when Telangana was 33.5, Indian severity rate was only 29.2. But unfortunately, the Indian severity rate has now gone to 34. And Telangana has come down to less than 31 and again climbed over 31. So what made this difference? The strategy that the Telangana state has followed was basically to reduce the speed of the vehicles or the speed of the state, in literally the speed of the state on the roads. So how did we do that? We conducted several hundreds of awareness programs in the Road Safety Week. Our Road Safety Week was not restricted to just 1 week in January. We did the Road Safety Weeks twice, January and July. And the Road Safety Week was not, in fact, it was not a week, it was a fortnight. And we involved everybody, school children, college children, auto drivers, truck drivers, everybody in a massive scale. Lakhs of people were involved using social media, etc., in the awareness campaigns. It was a big, huge campaign. Along with the campaign, we did a humongous amount of enforcement drives. We have increased the number of cases by 200% every year. And we have increased the compounding fee collected by 300% year on year. So we did both, carrot and stick. We requested people, we pleaded people, creating awareness campaigns. Please do drive responsibly. That was a huge campaign. Simultaneously, what we did is also that we told them that if you don't drive responsibly, we will get after you. And we have booked 200% more cases year over year and fined 300% more, so that the message is clear that we will not keep quiet. You have to be a responsible driver. Now, why responsible driver? We have seen the causative factors. When we looked at the causative factors, the 3 major and 3 minor causative factors, it's very, very simple. All those causative factors are basically talking about human behavior. In those causative factors, not many of them are about a safe vehicle. Not many of them are about a safe road. It is mostly about the safe behavior. And particularly when it comes to the human behavior or the human error, they say 85% of the road crashes are caused because of the human error. Now, out of this 85%, nearly 65% is the driver behavior. So it is the non-compliant driver behavior, 65% of the times is causing the road crashes. So therefore, we need to address the driver behavior. So this is exactly what we have done in Telangana. And we succeeded in reducing the severity rate, but unfortunately, again, it is going up. We need to address this now and today so that we will again reverse this curve. So basic idea is, if you understand how the impact or momentum impact takes place, if two bodies collide, if both the bodies are having a mass A and mass B, V1 and V2, velocity 1 and velocity 2, if these velocities are high, then mass multiplied by velocity, that is momentum, if that is high, then the impact is going to be much higher. Whereas if the velocity is in the controlled level, if the 80 kilometers per hour is the speed limit, if a vehicle is moving at 80 kilometers per hour vis-a-vis another vehicle which is moving at 120 kilometers per hour, if this vehicle collides separately and this vehicle collides separately, the B vehicle which is traveling at 120 kilometers per hour, that is 40 kilometers per hour more for the same mass, is likely to create greater damage. More damage is going to happen there. And when we talk about damage, we talked only in terms of the human lives that are being lost every year. We talked about 150,000 human lives being lost. We did not talk about the economic loss to the country. The economic loss to the country is estimated to be 3% of GDP is lost every year in India. 3% of GDP. And you can well imagine how much does it take to earn 0.1% of GDP. It's very, very difficult. In such a scenario, 3% of the GDP is simply vanished from the economy of the country because of these road crashes. So this is a huge, humongous loss. Not only human lives, not only the aspiring families, but also the economy of the country. In Telangana, again, we conducted several studies on artificial intelligence and robotics. We used the software developed by a company in Pune. The company is called Adore. So which is basically specializes in driver behavior using radar-based camera technology. We use them in the outer ring road. We have come to very surprising revelations or discoveries when it comes to distracted driving, not wearing seat belt, dangerous behavior, driving on the wrong side, driving at very, very high speed, 140 kilometers, 180 kilometers, 2 kilometers. The same technology in Sutlej Delhi Road has also shown us a video where a gentleman was driving a BMW. While having a mobile phone in his hand, he was texting and he removed his shoes. Both his feet with the socks were on the steering wheel. He was cruising at 180 kilometers per hour. So this is a driver behavior. Now, who is going to educate that gentleman driving BMW? Who is going to challan him? So that brings us to the use of information technology or IT. In Telangana state, back in 2012 itself, we started using IT in such a massive scale. We believe in non-contact enforcement. What we mean by non-contact enforcement is we don't stop a vehicle. Everything is captured by cameras. The cameras send the signals, messages, violations with the pictures, with the videos to the central server, and the central server generates the challan online, and the challans are sent by post to the address given in the RTA database. And the e-challan, we call it e-challan, demands that fine to be paid. If n number of e-challans are pending against that person, then that person is stopped, otherwise he is not stopped. So non-contact enforcement, contactless enforcement, highly IT-based, ITification of enforcement is what Telangana state is famous for. We are not at the right, at 100% efficiency. We have to do more. But the future in road safety, as far as enforcement is concerned, is use of IT, use of IT, use of IT, contactless or zero contact enforcement, and zero tolerance to violations. As a country, we should move towards zero tolerance to road safety violations. So how do you do that? That you will do only if you have a very heavy usage or application of information technology and removing the police officers' intervention on the road. Let the traffic move, but the violator should not go scot-free. Let there not be any subjective challaning. It will be objective, evidence-based challaning. So that is what Telangana state has been doing. Probably you will be interested in knowing that United Nations Global Connect Network India also has a task force of which I'm a member and an advisor. Now, United Nations Global Connect Network India is an interface between United Nations industry. The industry players are also there. Governance, government is there. If there are representatives from MORTH and experts, I am taken as an expert. And this particular United Nations Global Connect Network India has taken driver behavior as the main core topic. So they are encouraging studies, data, and development of applications on driver behavior and how to improve the driver behavior in the country. Similarly, there is a Center of Excellence in IIIT Hyderabad, Indian Institute of Information Technology. Again, I am fortunate enough to be the advisor on this Center of Excellence. Now, this Center of Excellence is basically doing research on artificial intelligence and robotics. Now, what is very, very important and very interesting about this Center of Excellence is, under one roof, this Center of Excellence has governance, people from governance, scientists who have been in artificial intelligence and robotics doing a lot of work for several years. They are in this Center of Excellence. And very, very interesting, look at the spectrum. If you have scientists on one end and the startups on the other end, this particular Center of Excellence brings the scientists and the startups on one platform and make them interact. They're a very, very interesting platform, the Center of Excellence on Road Safety in IIIT Hyderabad. Then Save Life Foundation, you heard about Save Life Foundation, who are responsible for the Good Samaritan law. They also give a lot of advisory to several states and several organizations. I'm also on the board of Save Life Foundation. So why I'm mentioning about Save Life Foundation is NGOs and the civil society has a great, great role in road safety. Excellent, fantastic role played by several NGOs. Because of the paucity of time, I'm not mentioning them. There are several organizations that are doing fantastic and tremendous job and contribution to the nation in road safety. Now, again, when it comes to the policy issues, ladies and gentlemen, the entire story got serious with the Moscow Declaration in 2009. Moscow Declaration discussed about 11 agenda points. Then again in Brasilia Declaration, that matter was taken forward, it was continued. There are a lot of common points between the agenda items or the targets that were raised in the Moscow Declaration were again raised in the Brasilia Declaration. And it is in the Brasilia Declaration, first time they talked about halving the road accidents in the globally. And incidentally, just a few days back, in February 2020, again, in Stockholm Declaration, the third global high-level conference on road safety took place, and that culminated in the Stockholm Declaration. The takeaway or the watershed in the Stockholm Declaration is the mention about the IT. Application of IT is what is the standout in the Stockholm Declaration. So now if you look at the Moscow Declaration, the Brasilia Declaration, and the Stockholm Declaration, all three of them are basically talking about the same thing, that the 5 pillars that Dr. I.V. Rao Garu has mentioned. So all the 5 pillars are the common points in all the 3 declarations. The major concern in all the declarations, the Moscow Declaration, the Brasilia Declaration, and the Stockholm Declaration is the same, that it is a decade of action for road safety. The road crashes or the road deaths should be brought down by 50%. It is a road deaths that is being talked about. What is being talked about is halving the road deaths. So how do you reduce the road deaths? If you do not know what are the causative factors, you cannot do anything. So we need to do what are the causative factors, and we need to understand the 5 pillars of the safe road safety management, the safe roads, the safe vehicles, the safe road user, and the safe medical emergency response. These 5 pillars are very important. So similarly, after the 2009 Moscow Declaration, Government of India did not leave any leaf unturned. Immediately, the National Road Safety Policy was commenced in 2010. This policy statement in 2010 described everything, discussed everything that was discussed in Moscow Declaration. Meanwhile, by the time the country has given itself a new Motor Vehicle Act in 2019, one more declaration has taken place, the Brasilia Declaration, again reiterating the points. So we took, as a country, we took 9 years to give ourselves a new act, a new policy. Why did we take so long? What are the other initiatives we have taken on the other pillars? So here I am bringing 2 points. One is the policy framework is one, and second is the institutional framework, and the third is actual implementation. So what has been happening is, on the policy, lot has been discussed. In the policy framework, lot has been drafted. On the policy framework, lot has been given. A lot, not complete. But what has happened on the institutional framework? What has happened on the implementational framework, enforcement framework? As an individual who has been on this subject of road safety for the last 6 years, my serious concern is, after the policy drafting, the institutional framework and the enforcement framework did not take off in India. This is my serious concern. This is my serious observation. I will substantiate why it has not happened and why I think it has not happened. So in actions in India, in consultation with Brasilia Declaration, I have captured a slide, but basically what that slide is saying is we have done partial, not complete. So we have given ourselves a good act in 2019, the Motor Vehicle Amendment Act 2019. Various states like Kerala, Karnataka, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh have given themselves Road Safety Authority Acts. Are those acts powerful or not? Whether they have given good powers to the authorities or not, that is what we have to see. Then what are the institutional frameworks that each state or a country or the country as a whole has given? So everything you will find is in each of the pillar that we are talking about. What we could do for ourselves is only partial and not comprehensive. So I have captured another slide for you that is all the 5 pillars. Pillar 1, road safety management. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Right. So here we see on the 5 pillars, we are finding absent and no and partial. That means we have left a lot to be done in each of the pillars, on each of the category of the roads. So there's a huge amount of homework to be done. There's a huge amount of translation of the policy into institutional framework, translation of policy into enforcement framework. So that is still there. We have a long road to travel. So that is exactly the reason why in all the 3 declarations, we will find the first bullet is the commitment of the governance. The commitment of the governance globally, I'm not talking about India, globally, the commitment of the governance is what the 3 declarations are demanding, because they find that the commitment of the governance is wanting. That is exactly what we see everywhere. So if you look at coming back to the monthly accidents and deaths, I thought I will do a little bit of comparison between the road crash and the COVID. The monthly accidents and deaths, the Indian figures are, yeah, this slide. If you look at the red line, the fatalities, about 12 lakh people are dying globally in fatalities. And if you do the same thing per month in the lower right side graph, that has now, the COVID deaths are actually now overtaking the road crash deaths. Here I'm not trying to say which one is more graver or which one is lesser. What I'm trying to capture from this graph, on a daily basis, in road safety, we are losing nearly 4,000 human lives globally on a daily basis. This is the historical data of the last 5 years. Now we have seen the today's figure of COVID-19 is crossed 500,000. If you approximately say it is about for 100 days, so that means we are losing on an average 5,000 people per day. So if you add that 4,000 people lost because of the road crashes per day to this 5,000 people lost because of COVID-19 or the pandemic every day, we're talking about 10,000 people every day. This is a massive loss of human resource capital. I'm not talking about the traumatic situations that the families or the dear ones are going through. The 10,000 precious human lives every day globally. So as on today, both are contributing almost 50%. Both are important, but unfortunately, the pandemic is likely to increase. I'm not trying to be pessimistic about it, but what I'm trying to say is there are some good lessons for both the situations to learn from the other. So what are they? Lessons from COVID-19, very interesting lessons for the road crash experts. What is happening in COVID-19? There is hourly, daily, and transparent data dissemination, analysis, decision, and action. There's a lot of discussion happening, a lot of discussion everywhere. A lot of data is being shared. There are transparent data, there are hidden data also. But the discussions, the analysis, dissemination, decision making is humongous in COVID-19. Similar data sharing, data dissemination, analysis, strategy sharing is not taking place on road crashes. And that is the need of the hour. The same thing should happen here. Then the multi-sectoral and synchronous approach that we are seeing in COVID-19 is fantastic. All the departments are coming together, attacking the common enemy. Whereas in road crashes, there are as many as 12 different stakeholder departments in any state. And believe me, no two departments come together ever. There is no coordination between any two of the 12 stakeholder departments in the road safety. Then look at the initiatives that are led, funded, managed. General public are participating massively in COVID-19. We are failing to raise that conscience of the general public. We are failing to attract the ideas or ownership from the general public. There is no fund at all from the general public. The Good Samaritan spirit, not happening. Cooperation with the general public, with the authorities. How much of it is happening in the road crash? Adherence to the rule of law. So there are some wonderful lessons we need to learn from COVID-19 and make both look like mirrors. They are not two different or distinct situations. Both are killing away 5,000 people nearly every day. Now, finally, what is my total observation in my 6 years of road safety governance? Policy framework in our country is nearly absent. What do I mean? What I meant by saying that is, Government of India has, yes, said there will be a Motor Vehicle Act 2019. Then it also said there should be a National Road Safety Board. Fine. After the Road Safety, the Motor Vehicle Act by the Government of India, by the federal government, how many states have given to themselves a Road Safety Act or what they call as Road Safety Authority Act? To the best of my knowledge, only 4 states have done it. Kerala, Karnataka, Gujarat, Haryana. That's all. Why did not the remaining 25 of the 29 states give themselves the Road Safety Authority Act? So there is an absence of policy framework. 2, institutional framework. Is there a, like National Highway Authority of India, is there a national enforcement body for road safety? Did the National Road Safety Board come into being? So what is the central authority? Similarly, what are the state authorities? Where are the state authorities? Kerala, Karnataka, Gujarat, Haryana, they talked about the state road safety authorities. They are on paper, they are there. But are they fully dedicated? Are they fully committed? Are they fully equipped with the road safety funds? Or are they having powers? This is a big question that we have to see. So again, institutional framework wise, it is nearly absent. Road safety fund, totally absent. Totally absent both with the federal government and with the state governments. State, center and state coordination. Center and state coordination in terms of a structure, in terms of an institutional structure, in terms of the budgetary support, in terms of the road safety fund and the rules around it. Is it there? It is not there. So the center state coordination is also absent. So then finally, what it comes to is a dedicated highway enforcement. Do we have dedicated National Highway Road Safety Police? Do we have dedicated and committed full-time State Highway Road Safety Police? Because after all, in the beginning of my presentation, I have mentioned to you the 5% of the National Highway and the State Highway consume 63% of the total deaths of the road crashes. So does it not call for dedicated, committed and full-time National Highway Road Safety Police and the State Highway Road Safety Police? So that is absent. So many absents. So what are we talking about? So now, finally, what are we talking about? We are talking about education and awareness. We are talking about enforcement. We are talking about emergency care. There are so many E's, but I concentrate on these 3 E's: education and awareness, enforcement, and emergency care. These 3 things will do a lot to reduce or half the road crashes, particularly the road deaths, to half. My final slide and most important slide when I'm talking about the state and center state collaboration for road safety is that there is an urgent need. There is an urgent need on an yesterday basis that both federal government and the state governments come together on a common platform. The federal government can accept funds from the multilateral agencies like United Nations, World Bank, ADB, etc., come with a hive of fund, a road safety fund, which can be used by the entire country on certain incentive-based or performance-based models. So whichever state is performing better will get more funds next year. Whichever state is able to reduce their deaths will get more funds next year. There should be a performance come impact created basis for giving funds. So that will not work until and unless there is an institutional framework both at the federal level as well as the state level. So institutional framework is road safety authorities, road safety, central government, federal government, National Road Safety Board, and each state should have road safety authorities. That is the institutional framework we're talking about. And this institutional framework flows out of the policy framework, and that policy framework is a Road Safety Act that each state should give to itself. Then the robust funding mechanism is what I told about the center-state collaboration of maybe 10,000, 20,000 crores of fund has to be created. So what are they all going to do? They have to do the enforcement, the emergency response, and education apparatus. These should be done on a sustainable, long-term, more than 20 years plan that should be in place. So this is my final slide. I hope I have driven the point home. I'm ready to take Q&A right now.
Sir, before Dipanshu takes over, I just wanted to compliment you for the excellent presentation analyzing all the details of various policies and gaps in implementation and what comparing the accidents, fatalities at the national level and state level, and various actions taken by you, how Telangana numbers have improved, and you also mentioned that they have deteriorated. And also your comparison of accident, deaths, fatalities with COVID is a very good learning. So I just want to understand from you, uh, what do you think we should do now with whatever experience we have gained out of COVID experience in monitoring and controlling spread of COVID? We should do as a permanent system for addressing the accidents and fatalities.
Yeah, as I told you that, COVID-19 did not give much time to humanity to react. It's a firefighting.
Yes.
So whereas the road crash or the road thing is historical, it is evolutionary. This is happening from so many thousands of years. So basically, what we should have done by now is give ourselves a good policy framework and the institutional framework. And I fail to understand why we did not do it. So we still have a lot of time. The immediate thing on a yesterday basis, what we need to do first of all is give ourselves good policy, that is the state acts, A, and B, institutional framework, and C, the road safety fund. Without these three things, whatever we talk, it is only talk. Action will not come. The impact will not be there on mere words.
Over to you, Dipanshu, for taking up questions from audience.
Sure. So first of all, thanks a lot, Prasad sir. It was a wonderful presentation. We got to know many points, and our audience is also very much engaging. So before we move on to questions, sir, what I have seen that there are many NGO participants in the audience, and their basic question is that they're doing a lot in road safety. They have been into this space for 4-5 years, and they are very interested to support the government, and they're saying that they're ready to do anything with what they can do with their resources for free for the government. But they're not getting that chance, or that they don't know how to approach the government so that they can work with the government effectively. So since you have led the road safety authority, so how did you engage NGOs, or what according to you is the efficient way of engaging NGOs or road safety NGOs along with government?
Very good question. In fact, I honestly feel that the NGO has got a much bigger role, and they're in a position and they have resulted
Right, sir.
doing big things. I've seen quite a few NGOs working very sincerely and with good results. One experiment, what we call as the Hyderabad Machilipatnam experiment, what we have done is with the help of the GIC, the General Insurance Council, we have introduced the ambulances on that highway. That has reduced the number of deaths by half in just a matter of 2 years. Then again, the World Bank and we work together on the Gulbarga road, which is a kind of an experiment for me, because I wanted to bring all the multi-stakeholders together on one platform. That has yielded excellent results. Now, with respect to the civil society and the NGOs, where is that they can contribute? Where is that they can participate? Among the 3 E's, there are several E's. Forget about the several E's. The 3 E's I'm mentioning about that education. You can see they can participate in a huge manner, educating children, auto drivers, and truck drivers. So education is where they can play a very big role, where government cannot play a proper role. The second is emergency response. I know several NGOs, like KP Foundation also, has donated ambulances, emergency response.
Right, sir.
For your information, when it comes to your 108 or whatever ambulance system that is there in the country in different states, there's no ambulance system which is dedicated and committed and full-time to the highways. Whereas under the National Highway Authority of India, it is a mandated for the toll gate operator to keep an ambulance, but you can go and check how many ambulances are there. So the second area where the NGOs and the civil societies can function is providing emergency response system. The third area, what I am talking about, the enforcement. Wherever enforcement is involved, it is broadly police and the transport department. And there are several civil society who come as volunteers, as the traffic volunteers, and come and assist police. But this third E, that enforcement, is slightly difficult to work. Not many police officers are enthusiastic to take volunteers. But the first two ones, the first one is education is a massive place. That total field belongs to the NGOs and the civil society.
Right.
The second one is emergency response, slightly difficult, has capital investment, and has an integration issues with the medical and health department where 108 or etc. is concerned. So the first one is the best one.
Okay. So thanks a lot, sir. I guess this would have helped some of our participants, because there are many participants from civic bodies and they're just asking that they want to participate and they want to help government as they are already working on this. And because why I specifically asked this question, sir, because you yourself are leading KP Foundation now. So you better know how and how interested these NGOs are to work on this cause. Another question that I've got, sir, is that in the busy schedule, how the police department get time to look after road safety issues in a detailed manner? And they're saying that what all are the challenges that are faced by police and what all is the support that police require from road safety professionals. So road safety professionals here are, you can say, sir, trainers, driver trainers, even say driving trainers. So they're saying that since they feel that police does not have that much bandwidth, or we are low on enforcement always, that we all accept that. So what and how these road safety professionals can support those who have been in this area for 30 years or 40 years, those who have been training people.
Yeah, as I told you about the other committee, the task force I'm on, United Nations, the task force, the final understanding of the task force is, we should look at the driver behavior. So basically, responsible driving is the biggest question in India. How is that your friend, who is an NRI from USA, I'm not taking his name, when he is in USA, he's very careful when he's driving.
Yeah.
But the moment he comes to India, his civic sense or the traffic sense, suddenly all the traffic rules go to the ceiling. So why is that our behavior is different when you're driving in USA or in Dubai or in Singapore? For the same person, when he comes back to his own homeland, why is his behavior different? So the driver behavior is the biggest thing and the biggest challenge. Not that they do not know. I told you about the BMW driver on the national highway. Is driving with his feet. So responsible driving is the bottom line. We are losing many lives because of irresponsible driver behavior. So basically the civil society and the NGOs have a very, very big role in coordinating with the police.
Right, sir.
So when it is coming to coordination with the police, typically what comes to your mind is enforcement. But enforcement is such a subject. The collaboration between the civil society and the police is not seamless. It doesn't happen very easily. But what police is lacking very, very seriously among themselves is that they do not have dedicated police or manpower or equipment or apparatus or a system to create awareness, to do the positive work of creative awareness. So that is where they should collaborate actively with the civil society and create that awareness and go for education drives. To drive the long story short, if you look at the total police cases, if you take the comparative statement of the crime of police, one third, more than 33% of the total volume of the crime, whether it is in the district or in the police station or the state, is road crashes. The total crime volume of any state or the country or any district or SHO, the Thanedar puts a comparative statement, one third of that is road crash. Now, when one third of your country's crime volume is road crash, why is that you don't have a dedicated police? You have crime police, you have special branch, you have traffic police, you have everything, but you don't have road safety police. Whereas one third or 33% of the total crime volume is only road safety. So this is exactly, again, that is a policy matter. So coming back to your question about the participation of the civil society and NGOs with the police in collaboration with the police is again education, education, and education.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. There's another question that has come up, sir. As we all say that road safety is a multi-stakeholder issue, and we need data-driven solutions for this issue now. So one thing that everyone is saying is that, sir, that every state has a different format for recording road accident data. And how this road accident data is getting recorded is that whenever there is an accident, a police official goes to that particular place and they fill up a form and they record the data in that form, and then that form that get digitalized into this various processes. And so what we are saying, sir, is that as of now, most of the accidents shows that the accidents were because of driver fault. And in most of the cases, people are saying that if it was a maybe suppose I am driving and there was a stray animal on the road, and my vehicle hit that stray animal, and now who is at fault here, and how are we recording this data? Because and how seriously are we taking this data? How seriously are we taking this recording of data, sir? Because you are very much aware about this data, and you know, and people like you or those who are on a very senior position, they know the importance of data, because this data is now being used in policy making, and that depends upon, and that is the only thing that helps us to devise policies. But is that person, the person who is going on ground in case of an accident, in a sunny day or a rainy day, whatever the day is, he's going on ground and he's recording that data? Is that person actually aware that?
I think Dipanshu, I got your question. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. See, number one is the investigating officer in Indian police trained to take up the road crash cases? Answer is no. There is no specific or there is no focused training program for the road crash investigation. Number one. Okay. Number two, typically in the rural areas, what happens is, because whether you call it the insurance claim, etc., there is a huge amount of pressure on the local police to always book the big vehicle. So there is a kind of a presumption that it is a big vehicle which causes the small accident to the small vehicle.
Right, sir.
So that is a kind of presumption for various reasons. The local pressures, etc., etc. So therefore, the answer to all these things is basically two. One is the investigation should be on evidence-based, module-based investigation. The data or the physical data that is collected at the crime scene, the physical evidence that is collected at the crime scene should be IT-based. It should be structured data. It is not non-structured data or unstructured data. So the scientific basis should be the evidence-based investigation is the bottom line. So once the evidence-based investigation is there, then second layer is the high-level training on the road crash investigation or having specialization in the road crash investigation. Like how is that you have CID, how is that you have CBI, how is that you have GRP, but how is that you don't have road crash police?
Right, sir.
When 1/3 of the total crime volume of the country is only road crash.
Right.
So the country demands a specialized investigation for road crashes, which you are not doing. So these are the 2-3 areas where we have to seriously do it. These are the serious gaps.
Sure, sure. So another question that is being asked here, sir, is that how can we promote cooperative federalism among states in terms of road safety? So we have seen that there are some states those who have done very good in last year, maybe in 2018, in terms of reducing road crashes, and there are some states those who have gone up in regards to in terms of number of road crash. So because you have been at this position, sir, you better know the truth whether these states are actually taking the best practices from other states and implementing in their states, or are they still trying to figure out something on their own?
A very good question. Like, as you know that all the 29 states are not on the same platform as far as development is concerned,
Right.
particularly in the rural areas.
Yes,
So when it comes to the road safety, what is very, very important is the golden hour. In many states, the victim cannot reach any referral hospital in 60 minutes.
right.
Because that hospital is so far away. And even for the first responder to reach the spot, it may take sometimes more than 1 hour. So there are certain states in our country which are going through very, very serious challenges of this kind. They're not properly equipped. So who will take care of this? They don't have funds. The state is poor. So that is exactly what I mentioned about the federal government and the state government collaboration, the center-state collaboration, where I'm talking in terms of 10,000 crore, 20,000 crore fund, not a small. If there is a backward state, I don't want to name any states. If there is a backward state which doesn't have proper medical infrastructure, and people are dying on the road, bleeding to death on the road, should we be just witnesses? Should we be simply silent spectators? Should we not do something about it? So this is exactly what I meant by center-state collaboration, because after all the states are not equal.
Right, sir.
When it comes to the police infrastructure, some states are very much highly advanced. Some states are very, very, they don't have funds. They don't have manpower. They don't have vehicles. In some states, the medical infrastructure is very good. Some states it's not good. Some states IT enabling or IT enforcement or IT applications are very, very good and advanced. In some states, not there. In some states, there is a good bandwidth. Sometimes, some states, there is no bandwidth. So many challenges. We have to come to the rescue of every human being who is likely to die on the road. We can't say the chances are very, very bright for a road crash victim's life being saved in state A, and in state Z, you forget about that life. It's very bad.
Okay. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time today, and it's almost 5:30. And
I see Madam Girija Sampath raising her hand. If you permit her to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, ma'am. You can, if you have any question, ma'am, you can write it in the chat.
Why don't you mute her?
I'll just, Swati can do that, sir. Swati, please unmute Girija, ma'am.
Yeah, I've done that.
Hello. Sir, I have a question. Like, I have seen your chart. In the chart, you have mentioned the maximum deaths are the pedestrians, more than 1,000. You have mentioned 1,063 or something. So is it a specific reason for that, sir? Why the pedestrians' death role is more than the other accidental?
There are several reasons for that, but the top important or the most important reasons are, number one, as a country, did you give a separate pathway for the pedestrian to walk?
That's what infrastructural, bad infrastructural things. That's what.
Lack of infrastructure. The pedestrian has a right to walk, but where is the pathway? And the pathways are all encroached by you only. You put a substation there, you put a municipal this thing, and you put a
All
bus,
vendors.
and you park your vehicles. Where will he or she or that poor child going to walk safely?
One more question, sir. Sir, is there, you have been in this area for such a long time. So which is the country in the whole globe is having the minimum accidents? And can you tell me that?
I think if you take per population, I think it is Norway.
Norway, yes.
The Finland countries. I think so. I'm not sure.
Do we have any case study which is done from that any country, sir, as a model here?
There are models. See, if you take the urban situation, Paris is the best model for experimentation or learning.
Yes.
The learning curve of Paris is very, very high. To cut the long story short, what happened in the last 4 years, the mayor of Paris has been, earlier their speed limit was 60 miles per hour in the city, in the Paris city. That was having too many road crashes and deaths. So the mayor decided along with the city senate to reduce it to 55, and they got very good dividends. The crashes and the deaths came down suddenly. And then again, what they said is, okay, why don't we do something more? And they again reduce it from 55 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour. Again, suddenly the deaths came down. But then beyond that, they could not do because there was a resistance from the people. So yes, Paris has got a fantastic urban scenario experiment, whereas Netherlands has got a fantastic result on education. What I was mentioning about education, creating awareness, debating, discussing, all that. They had fantastic results only on education and creating awareness, talking about road safety. Then Germany and Austria combined both education and also enforcement. So there are fantastic case studies, good practices, best practices. Sir, Ivy Rao, or you were...
I just want to add to what Ma'am Girija Sampath has asked. Ma'am, considering the traffic mix what we have in India, it is very difficult or it's not correct to directly adopt what other countries have done and achieved better results. So we need to study what others have done, but we have to adopt it to meet our specific requirements. For example, we have traffic mix of various types of vehicles on our roads. And the way our infrastructure is there, as we just discussed, there's no separate lanes for pedestrians. So whenever we have to come out with a solution for India, we need to take into consideration all these aspects. We cannot directly actually adopt what others have done successfully for India.
Sir, why I asked you this question, I am also from IT background. Our company is into artificial intelligence and IoT and using a lot of sentimental analysis and behavioral analysis. So like Sir told, education is very important. Like nowadays, people will not mind spending money for an app, even youngsters. So introducing under a single platform, using the behaviors of drivers and the pedestrians and how to drive, all these things can be put it in one single platform and educate the right from the 13-year-old children to the volunteers and safety companies. They will be coming forward and see the department needs a lot of backbench. See, the number of traffic police are not enough at all when any public program or anything, they need a backbench. So they have to train some people. There are many people like Rotary, Lions, the safety organizations, which government should come forward and tie up with these people and create volunteers and awareness, sir.
Right.
Thank you very much, sir. It was wonderful.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your question. And Paris is a wonderful example, yes, sir. So recently we were invited to Paris by French president, and we had the honor of meeting the mayor Anne Hidalgo. And at that time, Paris has taken a pledge, and she has specifically promised to all the Parisians that they plan to make every street of Paris pedestrian friendly, and they want to make Paris a 15-minute city, that whatever you want to get, you can get in 15 minutes by 2024, and that is by cycle, not by car or something. So they want to make Paris cycle friendly city, and it's a very good example, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So with this, it's time to wrap up this session, sir. We are again very thankful to you for your time, and our audience is also very happy. They are still writing thank you, because we really saw a detailed plan which we had never seen earlier. So thanks a lot for that. We understand that you would have spent a lot of time in devising this. This is not a year or 2 year task. This would have taken you so much of expertise and so much of time into the system to make this. So thanks a lot, sir, for sharing it with us. And we hope that our audience has learned today from you, and we will definitely try to do our best. And we look forward to having you with us in our future sessions, so that we can get more and more people to listen to you. So thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks a lot for your efforts. And thanks a lot, Ivy Rao, sir, for generously hosting the session for us. And Ivy Rao, sir, and Krishna Prasad, sir, both are Board of Advisory to Indian Road Safety Campaign. We're really grateful to have you on board with us, sir. And we believe that we are moving towards the motive of bringing together all the stakeholders during this pandemic time as well, because every time we see more than 150 participants coming together and talking about road safety, which is very good, sir, if we can do this at this point of time. So thanks to you and Ivy Rao, sir. And thanks a lot, everyone.
And
I'll see you next
Dipanshu,
time.
I should commend and congratulate you and your team, fantastic team. The team is very young and energetic with full of ideas. And you're taking a wonderful message forward to rest of the country. And Indian Road Safety Campaign is playing a very, very, very important role in road safety awareness of this country. I wish you great success. And I thank all the participants today. I saw more than 140 participants in the webinar today. I thank all of them for bearing me out and hearing me out for whatever I said today. And believe me, it's a wonderful topic. It's a great topic. It's a service to humanity. All of you are actually participating to service to humanity. After all, we are losing 150,000 human lives every year at 3% GDP of the nation. So I once again thank Dipanshu Gupta and his team, and Dr. Ivy Rao Garu and IRSC for this wonderful opportunity to me and to all the participants to discuss on this great topic of the country.
Pleasure, sir. Pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see you next Sunday, 4 p.m. Till then, stay safe, stay at home. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.